Hello, today I will be showcasing my updated Qorvex build that includes his latest augment mod added in the Tekrot Encore update that massively boosts his damage potential. For starters, this build uses a full set of Tau-forged Archon shards for casting speed, ability strength, and 3 shards that amplify the final damage of abilities by 45% when enemies are affected by radiation. You can use any shards you want or none at all if you don't have any, but the radiation topaz shards are extremely viable as they multiply your final damage, more than power strength would. In my build I have subsumed out his second ability for Jade's Eyes to strip enemy armor and slow down enemies, also to keep them grouped together. Eyes is the only helminth armor strip that is duration based rather than a cast, which is important as you cannot use any abilities while using fused Crucible, even his own powers. Technically armor strip is overkill for base level steel path as this build is capable of nuking enemies without it, but it's nice to have, especially as the slow effect stacks with the slow of his first ability. Arcane Battery is very helpful on this Warframe as the energy drain of this augment can ramp up quickly if you don't have a good way to regain energy. In this case I'm using Equilibrium and relying on my companion with Synth Deconstruct to convert health orbs into energy, which is usually enough to sustain Crucible Blast for a long time. You will notice this build uses all 3 Umbral mods, and this is ideal as this gives you enough armor with Stand United to have a perfect 1000 max energy, as well as having the strength needed to make Jade's ability strip armor faster. Umbral Vitality is the flex mod however, and you can swap it out for something else at a loss of strength, armor, and energy. This augment has 2 functions, both of which are very powerful. For starters, the ability is now a channeled ability which drains energy over time instead of only lasting a couple seconds, and Qorvex is still immune to damage during the cast. Secondly, and potentially even more important, as casting his 4th ability at all will cause his first ability to empower and more importantly obtain the radiation explosion effect of his 4th ability, even if you don't actually hit the pillars with your beam. This sets off chain reactions as the pillars naturally keep refreshing radiation on enemies, which causes enemies to keep exploding, though after a while the effect will stop working and you will have to refresh his 4th ability. So the strat for using Qorvex with this new augment mod is as follows. First, cast his 3rd ability to gain status immunity for yourself and other players. Place down his pillars to cover a wide area with radiation and slow effects. Cast Jade's ability to gain armor stripping at enemies you are looking at. Then cast his 4th ability. Enemies you shoot your beam with and any enemy in radius of his pillars will start exploding, doing area of effect radiation damage while you are entirely immune to damage and status. Qorvex was already pretty powerful against groups, but this augment turns him up to 11, possibly making him in a tier for Warframes if I may be so bold, as I already thought he was B tier myself. I highly recommend this augment mod, and I thank you for watching.
It is done, Tenno.